We are here at the studios of WCLT Radio, just outside. General Manager Doug Chrysler is going to take us for a little tour, and we're ready.
Glenn.
Thank you.
We'll come right in the front door. As I said in your radio interview, we've been in this building since 1947. It was built as a radio station, which was kind of unique back then. And also another interesting aside, over the years we've done naturally some remodeling. We had a local architect, Don Gunderson, come up here and help us. And when he walked into our studio, he had this funny look in his eyes. And he says, "This is deja vu. What's going on?" And he finally realized. He said, "This studio, a picture of it and a description was in one of my college textbooks on how to build an acoustically perfect studio." Which I always thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
Because I mean, they really back in '47. This was a high-tech building as far as radio goes. I mean, 13 was a major truck route. The entire foundation rests on a rubber base, so the vibration wouldn't come through. The walls are all double-thick concrete block with a 4-inch air space that go all the way up to the roof, so sound can't come up and go down. It was pretty impressive for its day. We'll come into the lobby area. This is reception area where you come in. It's changed over the years. Right now, where Judy is sitting right now, the reception desk, that whole area was lobby. And if you walk out here, I remember as a kid being up here, this was full of couches right here. And the receptionist actually sat way over there. So you had a long way to walk when you walked into the front door. But as times changed and demands changed, we needed more and more space for offices, so we sort of pushed the reception area out here and took over the lobby area as a receptionist area. We'll go back into the heart of the building right now, really, which are the studios. We rebuilt these studios, I think now about 3 years ago. This was the original Studio A. It was the large, acoustically perfect room that I mentioned Mr. Gunderson talked about. Unfortunately, those studios aren't needed anymore in radio. Smaller rooms, so we had to carve it up. So as you see when you walk in here now, it's a hallway, but I don't know if you can get this on your video. You see the baffles. These are all the hand-cast plaster baffles. And this whole room was designed so that sound would not deflect and cause problems with mics. So when we did the rebuild, we tried to keep as much of the old as we could. So that's why we left the walls intact. Those light fixtures were built locally. Those are Hall of Fame light fixtures. We tried to keep everything that we could. If you look at the doors, these are the original doors that were put up in '47. We modified them with windows. Those are the original on-air lights up there from back in the day also. So we kept all of that. We'll go into the FM studio right now, T100. If you want to just walk in, Glenn,
sure.
You can take a pan in the room. You see how we tried to keep it as retro as we could. The sound absorption material, some local people may recognize, we got that from Tectum. Once again, another local company. But if you come around this way, Glenn, you can see how the consoles has changed over the years. When the station first went on the air, we had a central control room with an engineer, and the announcers were not DJs then, they were announcers, and all they had was a mic in front of them. Now you've got consoles and controls that the announcers take care of, and then of course everything's moved to the computer operation as far as sound goes, so we've got a couple of different PC-based systems in here that the announcers have to have access to.
All right.
We'll go next door and take a look-see at the AM studio now, as Kelly darts out of the way.
Ha! We've had you on plenty of videos, Kelly.
I know.
You might take a gander through this window. This is kind of interesting. This is a production studio right now. It's largely an older analog studio, so it doesn't get too much use. But the original purpose of this was the observation room. And if you remember, this was one big room, so people that wanted to observe the radio broadcast would be taken into this room so that the sound wouldn't transfer either way. You know, there would be no disruption of the broadcast. In this room, we had a baby grand piano that sat in one corner. We donated it to the Pine Seminary several years ago, and I was out there a few years ago. It's still there. It's not in the shape it once was, but it's still hanging there. But now, over probably 20, 25 years ago, we changed that into a production studio. This is our AM studio. This is the home of 1430 with all the sports that you mentioned before. Very similar setup to the FM in terms of the consoles are matching consoles so that an operator that's used to running the AM station can run the FM and vice versa. Once again, PC is very important in our environment and in this room. And right now, much of our talk programming comes off of national syndicators, so it's fed to us via satellite. And that's what you're hearing right now, Laura Ingram, who's on the air. Through the room, you're looking at a third production studio right there, and also a backup air studio that we have. That's really the most interesting parts of the building. The rest is pretty much the same. You know, it's offices for sales staff, clerical work, the traffic, the news department, engineering, and transmitter and things like that.
This is where all the action happens here, though, these three studios.
So Friday night, when we do our Friday night high school football games, we'll have an operator in here, and this is where he runs the game to put it out on the air on 1430 and 100.3 HD. HD3.
HD3.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Glenn.
Doug Pricer, General Manager of WCLT T100 Radio, taking us around, showing us the studios, and giving us a little history on the building.